Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of SportsTalk Philadelphia. My name is Tyler Harper. I am your host, and with me, a star-studded panel, much like the Philadelphia Eagles. They're 3-0 right now, and we've got three winners right here. We've got Anthony Fleet, we've got Jordan Green, and way down on the air, and there we got Stephen Graham, and we're talking some birds. Let's get right into it. Of course, big divisional matchup, taking on those Washington Redskins. Let's see that full-screen graphic. 34-37, right down to the wire. Tough game as Jeremy Maclin really coming into his own, 154 yards, a touchdown, 8 receptions. 8 receptions also for Jordan Matthews, rookie finally starting to find his grind. First 2 career touchdowns. And of course, Deshaun Jackson, we kind of figured something was going to happen. 5 receptions, 117 yards, and a touchdown. Guys, let's just start with how good did it feel to not only beat Deshaun Jackson, but to beat those Redskins on our home turf?
Oh, it felt great. You know, it was a big division win, as all division games are. It's always good to get the upper hand on your division. You see them twice a year, especially when they take care of business when you're at home, because you have that home field advantage. You have the crowd behind you, and they're a division rival, so the crowd is always especially amped up just to face a division rival. So it was a good win. It was hard fought, just like the first 2 games where, you know, the Eagles, they dig themselves a little bit of hole, but they proved that they were able to dig themselves out through attrition and through good stamina. So it was a nice win. I was proud to see them pull that game off.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to win the games you're supposed to win. And to be quite frank, it's the most entertaining Eagles game I've seen in a while. You get a fight between the players. You get Deshaun Jackson's return. Foles looked, really tough, and he kind of showed you what he was made of. Probably one of his better performances to date. Just a high-scoring game. Kirk Cousins came into his own a little bit. It was just real fun to watch.
Steve, you were there. Talk about that atmosphere.
Yeah, just being at the game was incredible. Division games, you're always going to expect, one of the best games of the season, especially with the Redskins. Eagles and Redskins always have had history. But just to see the fight the Eagles gave, we're used to them this season falling behind in the first half. But to put up actually 21 points, I see as progress. So, it was just really an unbelievable atmosphere. I haven't been to the Link in a while, but just to see that division game, the brawl, and the comeback it was a great feeling.
Yeah, I could tell you were there. You know why? Your voice sounds a little hoarse to me. But nevertheless, I mentioned him earlier. His stats were up, but Jeremy Maclin. So far, people were worried about him coming in the season. Of course, he has that 1-year deal to prove himself. So far, he's been looking really good. How confident are you right now in Maclin being the number 1 receiver?
Oh, I'm confident, especially because of the dual running back that the Eagles have to throw at defenses with McCoy and Sproles. So I'm confident Maclin, he's able to create some space, because more times than not, he'll be one-on-one with cornerbacks because there's usually not that safety help like Deshaun Jackson did. So maybe not too much attention is paid to him. So I think he could exploit most one-on-one matchups that he has against cornerbacks in this league. And like I said, with the running backs being in the backfield, being the threat they are, that'll definitely free him up for some space to be able to do some good things for the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with him thus far. I have his jersey. I was getting a little worried I might, have to trade it away, or, whether I should be ashamed to wear it, because, every time he turns around, it seems like he's hurt. He hasn't quite lived up to expectations, but, because, we didn't know what to expect. We hadn't seen him play in a while. But you watch the game, and every time you turn around, it seems like he's open, whether Foles hits him or not. And, of course, they connected quite a bit the last game. But even the games I saw previously, he's been getting open. He looks fine. He hasn't had an injury scare. And, I like what I'm seeing. He could easily make a Pro Bowl the way he's playing right now.
Tyler, you say Jeremy Maclin, being our number 1 receiver. But what I like most about this Chip Kelly offense is that there really is no number 1 receiver.
That's true.
I see this defense, the defense is playing the Eagles. They want to double cover Jeremy Maclin, but then you have Jordan Matthews stepping up and getting 2 touchdowns, So what I like most about it is, after the ACL tear, Maclin, is stepping up. He can get a deep ball. Hopefully, Foles and him start connecting deeper. But Riley Cooper, Jordan Matthews, Zach Ertz, I don't really see a number 1 receiver. I just see many threats in this offense.
You mentioned Jordan Matthews, and we'll start with you on this point, and I get us bringing around. How comforting was it to finally see him hit his stride, get his first 2 touchdowns, get those out of the way? Because early in the preseason, a lot of people were worried because he was dropping some wide open balls, but now it's looking like he's putting it all together.
Yeah, it was just great because throughout the preseason you heard how, this guy was a steal out of Vanderbilt, 2nd round, how did we get this guy? And it seemed like, he had a lot of nerves in the first 2 games, but 2 touchdowns, we can only hope that he goes forward from here in the 49ers game.
Jordan, how about Jordan Matthews?
He's looking really well. This is the guy we kept hearing about, during camp, but we didn't see too much during the preseason or the first 2 games for that matter. But I mean, he's really starting to come into his own, and I guess the drops we saw earlier really were rookie jitters. But I mean, he looks good. I mean, he could easily be one of the better slot receivers in the NFL. We got to remember he broke all sorts of SEC records in college, and I don't think that was a fluke. He was playing good competition in college, and he produced. And he shows, we know for a fact he's going to work hard. That's the one thing people give him credit for, and he's going to produce, and he did that Sunday.
All right, before we go on to our STP Player of the Week, I got to mention we did win this game by a slim 3 points that the Redskins could have easily had for whatever reason Alex Henry not been wearing Kai Forbath's uniform. Guys, did the Redskins kind of give us this game a little bit, or we still outplayed them, but how lucky was that field goal got missed?
Oh, yeah, that missed field goal was really fortunate because the Redskins, they had a nice drive going, and I gave the Eagles credit for being able to keep them out of the end zone, and I figured, all right, the Eagles were set up for 3 points. But then he hit the upright, and it was just like a surprise to everybody. It was just like jubilation for the fans, for Eagles fans everywhere watching the game. So they definitely got lucky there, and they were able to build off of that momentum from that missed field goal to seize the game from that point on.
Yeah, I mean, you need a little bit of luck sometimes. I didn't think he was going to miss from that close in, but the second he missed it, I was like, all right, I guess this is just the game for them to win. This is their game. Luckily we have our own kicker situation settled with
Love Parkey.
Yeah,
Cody Parkey.
Oh man, he's the kid. Yeah, he's big upgrade. Not only is he making his field goals, but he's kicking out the end zone as well. And that was us last year. We're missing field goals under 40 yards. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck.
I've never been more relieved to see touchbacks in my life. Steve, you were there. Talk about the reaction when Kai Forbath missed that 33-yarder.
It was huge. Nobody expected it, but not to take anything away from the Redskins. They played a really good game, especially Kirk Cousins. But I really believe that this game could have been, they could have won it by another 2 touchdowns. Foles missed 2 deep bombs that I really believe if they were caught, they were touchdowns. There's no one in front of the guy. But, that missed field goal, obviously they won by a field goal, so it was huge. And it was almost like when he missed it and it hit off the pylon, the crowd didn't know whether to cheer. Like, did that really just happen?
You should have heard Merrill Reese's call. I was driving back to my house and hearing Merrill Reese basically saying beforehand, oh, this is going to be a chip shot. And then when it was no good, he lost it. It was insane. I can only imagine what it was like to be there. But you mentioned Nick Foles, and today, Nick Foles, he's our SDP Player of the Week next week. As you can see on the graphic, not Sproles, but Foles. Nick Foles, 27 for 41 on pass attempts, 325 passing yards, and 3 touchdown passes. Guys, he kind of looked a little shaky in the last couple of weeks, even a little bit this past week against Washington, but is Nick Foles back? Not that he ever left.
Yeah, I sure hope he gets to return to himself that he was last year during that remarkable run to end the season. He did perform. A lot of people were giving him credit because he was able to stand in the pocket tough despite taking hard hits from all different angles from all different players, especially on that what was not happened to be an interception return by the defensive back. He took that chip shot that held for a lot of debate during the week, but he just kept picking himself up. He kept himself together, and he was able to just keep playing tough and grind his victory up.
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge sigh of relief for me to see Foles play how he did. It's probably his best game to date, even better than the 7-touchdown game in Oakland, at least in my opinion, just because of...
Certainly a better defense.
Yeah, and I mean, the degree of difficulty is not wide open throws he's making. He's getting hit, and he's, I know I was complaining about him side-arming throws, but he was side-arming throws, and it was getting to where it had to go this game. So, I mean, and then to see him get knocked down and bounce back up, and then the way his teammates responded to him, I was impressed.
Like Chip Kelly said, this is Philadelphia. We're here to fight, and I like to see that inner fire inside of Nick Foles. It just seemed like the past 3 weeks he's really stepped up. He's finding receivers. He's keeping up with the offense. We saw him shaking off some rust against Jacksonville, and but I see progress. And he takes a cheap shot. He's been getting beaten up, from the lack of starters in the offensive line. So it was just, it gives you a lot of faith in Nick Foles to see him take all this beating and he can still win a football game.
Yeah, you mentioned those gaps in the offensive line. Of course, now even worse with Jason Kelsey being out until at least week 10 with that sports hernia surgery. But even though he took all those hits, I mean, on the slow-mo replays on Fox, you could see him every time he got hit in slow motion. You could just see his face, he was in pain, no doubt about it. But every time, he just got right back up, got right back on the horse and just kept going. And after that, even more teammates said, you know what, I respect this guy even more. Talk about him earning that respect and really just earning not only a city's respect, but a team's respect as well as this tough starting quarterback.
Oh yeah, that's huge in a locker room to have respect of your teammates, especially in that leadership role that the quarterback of any NFL team plays. You want to make sure that you have the team behind you because they'll rally around you. And as you saw during that brawl, what happened after that fight, you know, they see how tough Nick Foles has been playing throughout that game, and since he's took over the starting role. So they're like, if anybody's going to take a cheap shot, we have your back. We're going to defend you through thick and thin because we see how hard you're fighting for us. So we want to return the favor by backing you up.
I've been a pretty big Foles critic over the last couple of games just because I want to see my quarterback be a little bit more consistent. But I mean, the one thing I could definitely say about him is that he gets better as the game goes on. In fourth quarter, we know he's not going to come up. You know he's not going to come up small. So that's a great trait to have. You know, I'm not going to say he's the next Tom Brady or anything crazy like that, but it's good to see he doesn't shrink in the smaller moments because that's not something the Redskins could say about Cousins right now because he looked like Peyton Manning up until the fourth quarter. You know he's connected on everything, and in the fourth quarter comes he's missing easy throws. But Foles, you know, staring down the barrel, delivering throws, and like I said, the way his teammates responded to him, it was really a sight. I didn't know he had those kind of leadership qualities in him. I always thought he was kind of more of a reserve guy, but he's really earning this team's respect, it seems like.
You'd like to think on any football team, if a quarterback took that kind of hit, somebody's going to step up for him. And I don't know how much the camera got it on television, but that Eagles bench cleared to go after 92. Like, it just shows, like, yeah, that kind of effect he has on the team. You know, everybody's got his back. And I don't know other quarterbacks like that. I'm sure, you know, Brady, Manning, if something were taken, but it was just good to see that. Like, the whole team's got his back, and they're going to protect him.
Yeah, I mean, Jason Peters came out. He apologized for his role in it, but he said he'd do it all again. Of course, getting it into it with Baker, even though that hit was deemed legal.
It was a dirty hit.
It was a dirty hit, right?
Yeah,
Go on about that.
Your eyes don't lie to you. It may be legal, but he was, you know, he kind of like stopped and stared at him for a sec. He was licking his chops. It's a big man. You know, like pick on someone your own size. That was the problem.
Not only that, but how about that Redskins assistant coach jumping up and down as soon as that hit was made?
Yeah, it looked like the coach, a lot of people were like criticizing on that, but the coach was really celebrating the interception and the return. But
it was just so coincidental.
Yeah,
though.
just about this hit though, like it was definitely a legal hit. You know, he threw an interception. Nick Foles was trying to be that last guy if he had to try and make a tackle on him. But it was dirt. It's like a frowned upon hit kind of thing. And that's why he's getting so much heat about it.
You see receivers getting hit like that, and you get a flag drawn.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. So, but of course, Foles able to get up and move on and been looking good, especially these last couple weeks. But now let's talk about an Eagle who, despite the last couple weeks, hasn't been himself really, and that's LaShawn McCoy. Let's look at his stats so far, as he has 60 rushes, 175 yards, only a touchdown. He has yet to run for over 100 yards in a game. Guys, is Shady struggling, or are teams just game planning for him more?
I think teams are game planning for him more. It could be a little bit of him struggling. You know, he suffered that concussion early in the game. That Washington game, he suffered that concussion, so you figured, oh boy, like here we go with a big key player getting injured. But he came back. I don't think he was really himself that game, and a lot of it has to do with the defense. You know, you see the boxes, they get loaded up in formations, ready for him to come. They're not going to let McCoy beat them. They'd rather have Foles and these. They don't really seem like primary receivers. They seem more like secondary receivers, just a group of secondary receivers. So they figured, we'll take our chances having Macklin or Cooper or this rookie Jordan Matthews beat us as opposed to LaShawn McCoy, who already proved himself that he's one, if not the best, one of the best backs in the league.
Yeah, a lot of things went right for him last year. I don't really think it's him at all. It's just, you know, the circumstances surrounding him. Last year, there's no one taking away from his carries. He has Sproles this year. The line stayed healthy the whole year. We had we had great play from the line. You know, probably the best run blocking line in the league. They ran the ball a ton. Teams weren't really sure what Chip Kelly was trying to do. They weren't necessarily game planning for Shady, but this year they're just stacking the box. The line's not healthy. You're down to your third lineman. Kelsey's out. Peters is missing time. Evan Mathis is all pro. So a lot of things just aren't going right for him right now. But, I mean, it's a long season. I wouldn't be too concerned because physically he looks fine to me. It's just a matter of the blocking.
Steve, how much of this are you going to put on the offensive line woes?
Yeah, I want to agree with Anthony saying, he was the leading rusher last year. Of course, teams are going to game plan for him. But part of me is thinking, is the competition with Darren Sproles getting to him? I don't know. He had 21 carries for 22 yards. I'd like to think I could run better than that.
Do you think he's buying into his own hype?
Yeah, I don't know. I hope it's not that.
I hope it's not that either.
He's doing a lot of commercials.
Right.
20-cent tip?
A lot of attention.
Maybe.
Is it the attention that's getting him? But hopefully it's just game plans and he can get it together. He can figure it out for himself.
Yeah, I don't really see any room to run. So.
Right. And I expect them to rebound from this slow start as well.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But real quickly, let's highlight really the best Eagles defensive player so far this year, and it's been Malcolm Jenkins. So far, 14 combined tackles, 2 interceptions, of course tied for a decent size for second place in the NFL in that department right now. And you're going to have to pardon the pun, but do you like that Jenkins is playing with a chip on his shoulder?
Oh, absolutely. It's huge to solidify the secondary. He's a very good presence in the secondary because there's a lot of concerns about the safeties last year with Patrick Chung and Earl Wolf and Nate Allen. That trio, they weren't really getting the job done as they should have. So Malcolm Jenkins, he's a veteran. He comes in, he just solidifies that secondary. He helps take the pressure off of guys like Kerry Williams and Bradley Fletcher, who have a lot of responsibility covering these dynamic receivers in the NFL. So his presence is huge in the lineup, and let's just hope he can stay healthy from going on.
Steve, real quick on Malcolm Jenkins.
Yeah, I think he's really playing well. Like you said, he's playing with a chip on his shoulder. I think back when they got him, a lot of Eagles fans wanted Bills Jarius Byrd, and he ended up
went
going
to the Saints to replace Malcolm Jenkins.
Exactly, he went to the Saints. So, I think Malcolm Jenkins is feeling like a settlement, and he's playing with that chip on the shoulder. And that stat of the 2 interceptions, those were 2 key interceptions. They sealed the win. So it's just, I hope that he continues to play big for this Birds defense.
I completely agree. I hope he plays big against the 49ers. And speaking of that matchup this week, let's take a look at our prediction poll here on STP. Bad news, I'm picking the Niners this week. But good news, I'm not alone. So I've got the Niners 24-16. And because of those offensive line woes we mentioned earlier, I see Patrick Willis having a field day. Whether he's getting to Foles a couple times, whether he's stopping Shady and Sproles, I see Patrick Willis having a big day and being the STP MVP. Anthony, you've got Colin Kaepernick as your MVP.
Yeah, Colin Kaepernick, he's a dynamic athlete as far as throwing the ball. He has a nice arm. Running, he has extraordinary legs. So I expect him to, especially if Kendricks is out, it's going to be hard for these replacement linebackers like Casey Matthews and Graham to chase around this guy because he's a really dynamic athlete. And I think I can't see the 49ers losing 3 straight games. They're at home. They're going to be desperate. They're going to be hungry. I see Kaepernick having a big day.
Jordan, you have 27-21 Niners, and Frank Gore is your MVP.
Yeah, I think they're going to go back to old reliable. I think they're putting too much pressure on Kaepernick. They're going to take some pressure off of him. I think the law of averages play out. Niners win.
All right, and Steve, the eternal optimist here, 30-27 Birds, Nick Foles, your MVP.
Yeah, it looks like I'm the only loyal Birds fan on this panel, but
Excuse us for being analysts.
yeah, sorry. Hopefully I'm not the dumb one, but anyway, I really see a winning attitude in these Eagles, and they love the record 3-0, but they're tired of hearing that those are lucky 3 wins. So I see Nick Foles stepping up, Malcolm Jenkins, another game-stealing interception too.
All right, that'll be interesting to see. But now we move on. We're not going to move on to the Phillies this week. We'll wrap them up next week. But right now, we got Flyers talk. Hockey season's coming up, boys. And first, let's talk about the captain, Claude Giroux. Not good news when training camp started last week, as we heard that he's got a lower body injury. But let's see his stats. But there's good news as we see his stats here. 2013-14 stats, 28 goals, 58 assists. And, of course, 3rd in the Hart Memorial Trophy voting for the league's most valuable player. But there was good news out of camp this past Thursday as he's looking really good. Everyone's saying he's looking a lot quicker than he did last week, shaking off that rust. How relieving is it to hear that the captain's looking good and maybe he can get a preseason game in before the season starts?
Oh, it's definitely a big deal. I'm sure Flyers Nation collectively held their breath when they heard of his injury. Not even a half hour into the training camp. It was terrible news to hear, but to see him back on the ice, a lot of his teammates, they say, is a testament to his will. They say he's always working hard. He always wants to be on the ice. He can't stand being off for extended periods of times. So I'm not really surprised that he's making a quick recovery. Let's just hope he doesn't rush into it and has his injury lag and affect his performance going forward in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I blink and he's practicing again. It's good to hear because everyone knows it's no secret. The Flyers are going to go as far as Giroux goes.
Right.
You know, he's their best player, their leader. You know, you don't really want to overwork him because the season is a grind, obviously. So I kind of want him to ease his way back into it. But it's a good sign for the Flyers. They need some good news.
It's definitely a good news for the Flyers. You know, last year he got that Manly golf injury, if you remember. And first
Club shattering into his hand.
First 14 or 15 games, he couldn't find the back of the net. So hopefully, you know, one preseason game can get him, you know, at that slower pace before it's game one, up pace NHL hockey, you know. So it's definitely good for the Flyers. He's getting some drills in today. He said he felt good on the ice. So yeah, definitely just great news.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get snubbed from Team Canada every year, and of course that was what lit the fire under Claude Giroux last year. But let's move on to an injury, an interesting hockey injury to say the least, but it's a lot more serious. Kimmo Timonen. If we can see his stats up there, 519 games played with the Flyers, 38 goals, 232 assists. Now, I've put up his total numbers as a Flyer because in the offseason he signed a one-year extension. Basically everybody, including Timonen himself, knew this is going to be his final year. But then the reports coming as a blood clot in his thigh and two in his lungs. So finally last week, Ron Hextall and Kimmo Timonen had a press conference, and Hextall came out and said, you know, Kimmo's in a tough spot right now, and he's going to miss months minimum. And when asked about it, Timonen said himself that, yeah, I figured that this could be the end of my career, but at least to start, I'm not willing to retire just yet. I want to wait it out a little bit. Guys, for years, Timonen's been the Flyers' best defender. How concerning is this?
It's definitely very concerning. We just talked about Claude Giroux and his importance to the team as a whole. Kimmo Timonen's role on the defensive line is similar to what Giroux is to the whole team. He was always a catalyst on special teams. He's a very good offensive player. You know, he scores some goals. He gets a lot of assists, especially on the power play. So his loss is definitely a big hurt to the team. But you know, it's something as serious blood clots. You can't mess around with things like that. You just got to do what the doctors tell you. Be on that proper medication and just, you know, take it easy because that could be life threatening.
Yeah, Mason needs all the help he could get, obviously. So losing the body's, you know, not going to help their cause. But at the same time, there are things bigger than hockey. So hopefully he could turn around, and it's very, you know, admirable that he's going to still try to give it a go and see if he could play again. But, you know, maybe it's a sign, but you can only wish him the best.
Definitely a big loss for the Flyers. Like you said, he's the best, most consistent defenseman for the Flyers. But on the business side of it, you know, now that he can't play this season, I'd like to see Hextall's been talking to Michael Del Zotto and his agents over the summer. He's a defenseman from Nashville. Exactly. He's cheap and he's young. So, you know, a good prospect there to replace Kimmo Timonen. And we'll see, you know, Braden Shen, Mark Streit stepping up. You saw him get a goal and 3 assists against Washington Capitals. So I think they're working hard to replace Timonen.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how the Flyers do. Of course, we'll be checking in with them throughout their season. But now, time for everybody's favorite part of SportsTalk Philadelphia. It's Fast Five time. So we begin with Steve Graham. And speaking of the Philadelphia Flyers, they replaced one of the fans' favorite part of the rink experience at the Wells Fargo this past season, this year, and no more ice girls. And the fans let them know about it the other night, just booing the ice crew, all guys. Is this fair or foul?
It had to be expected. I guess it's fair. My favorite thing was Voracek was interviewed after the game, and he said, you know, it gave him a good laugh, but he was asked if he was affected by the ice girls. He said no comment because I have a girlfriend, so I thought that was really fun. You know?
Classy. All right, Jordan, your Phillies MVP for this year.
Their best player, Cole Hamels.
I was going to say Chase Utley, Cole Hamels, Chase Utley, Cole Hamels.
He brings it every night. I mean, Utley had a great bounce back year. I still have to give it to Hamels, though. Every day he brings his, you know, his lunch pail, whether he gets to run support or not. You know, he's in his prime, one of the few Phillies still in his prime. I guess Ben Revere, but I'm not too high on him. But he had a good year as well. But it has to be Hamels.
All right, Anthony Fleet, your favorite Phillies moment of the year?
It's a year that's been as downtrodden as this. It's kind of hard to say. I would say the combined no-hitter. That was a pretty cool experience. Hamill starting. His bullpen was able to back him up. He had some offensive support for once in one of his great starts. So the combined no-hitter was definitely a cool thing.
Mm-hmm. All right, Steve Graham. Another Phillies question. We've got to fit the Phillies in somewhere here. Who's more likely to close for the Phillies in 2015, Jonathan Papelbon or Ken Giles?
I really think Ken Giles. Philly might have not had enough with Jonathan Papelbon after the rude gesture and just the attitude problems that he's had in Philadelphia.
It'll be interesting to see if someone takes him. And last question, Anthony Fleet. The Flyers unveiled they have new-ish third jerseys this year that they'll be wearing, but they're just the Winter Classic jerseys they've had a couple years ago. Do you like them?
Yeah, I think they're pretty cool. You would expect the third jersey to be kind of like more different than, because they wear orange jerseys as it is already for regular home jerseys. But the Winter Classic jerseys, they were cool. It was a nice dark tint of orange, so wearing them once in a while won't be too bad. It shouldn't have any effects on any games or anything like that. All
right, well that'll do it for us this week here on SportsTalk Philadelphia. But the show doesn't have to end here. You can find us on the web. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/SportsTalkPhiladelphia. On Twitter, we're at LaSalle TV Philly. Our email is lasalletv@lasalle.edu. On YouTube, you can see our full episodes, youtube.com/LaSalle56TV. And on the web, we are lasalle.edu/LaSalleTV. Remember to never stop exploring. That does it for us this week. For Steve Graham, for Jordan Green, and for Anthony Fleet, I'm Tyler Harper. We'll see you next time.